great.
Good to see y'all up here. All right, I know a lot of y'all are good friends, but for those of you who don't know me, my name is Jen Jordan. I'm a state senator, and I represent large parts of Fulton County, a little bit south of here, and then Cobb County. I was elected in 2017. I flipped a district. It was a Republican district, right? Y'all remember that? Everybody. Technology. I can be loud enough, but how about, I'm gonna talk loud. That's how I roll. All right, y'all, we'll start over. My name is Jen Jordan. I'm a state senator. I represent large parts of Fulton County and Cobb County, but I'm originally from Dodge County. Dodge County is in South Georgia, and there is a reason that they say get the hell out of Dodge. Right? That's where I grew up, though. That was my community. I was raised by a single mother who had a beauty shop. She was a hairdresser. And so every day, that's what I did after school. I went to that beauty shop, and I listened to the women that were getting their hair done every day. And for anybody who's from a smaller community, y'all know that beauty shops and barber shops really are the heart of these communities, right?
Yeah.
And so every day I would go there and I would listen to these women, and what they would talk about, they talk about all the things that really make up a life, right? All the good and bad. You know, marriages, divorces, evictions, you know, cancer diagnoses, their child has an addiction, all of those issues. And what I came away with from listening to them all those years, right, is that it didn't matter who you were, you know, what title you had in the community, what people thought of you, how much you went to church or how much you prayed, that bad things can happen to you, right? Bad things can happen to you. And when bad things happen to you, you really need someone who will advocate and fight for you. And so that is what is so great about Olivia, is because that is what she is doing for the children in this community. And let me tell you, when I was growing up, that is what my teachers did for me, because my mom worked all the time, right? Because that's what you do when you're surviving. So she worked all the time, so my teachers really stepped up and kind of, you know, they took care of me. They were my extended family. And really, they saw something in me that I never saw in myself. My family was not one of those families that, you know, we talked about college. I remember one time I went to the Governor's Honors Program, which was a great program. And I remember the kids there were talking about Ivy League, going to an Ivy League school. And I said, what are y'all talking about? I said, my counselor at my high school is so concerned with the dropout rate. I said, I don't even know what Ivy League means. And that really was the reality of my life. But my teacher saw something in me and they said, Jen, you know, you should really try to go to college. And I was like, I don't even know how to do that, right? But I was lucky enough to be part of that first kind of swath, that first class that were able to get the Hope Scholarship. And so with Hope, with Pell Grants, with student loans, and with a lot of jobs, you know, I've done just about everything, I have to tell you. I was able to work my way through college, and then I worked my way through law school. And that's really where I found my calling. And so you hear a lot of ministers or pastors talk about how they've been called, you know, to serve, right? They've been called to minister. I really do feel like I was called to the bar. I love the law. I loved law school. It was like my whole life just opened up when I went to law school. And I figured out exactly where my place in this world was. And from there, I was able to use the law to actually have a profession where I could help people. I could help people like my mother, like the women in my small town, the people that folks didn't want to stand up for and didn't want to fight for because maybe they didn't have the money, right? Or maybe they were dealing with an issue in terms of a bill collector, a payday lender. All the things that really, if you are living on the edge, can throw you off the cliff. We've all been there. And if you haven't, let me tell you, you don't want to be. It's a tough place. It's a tough place to be. So that's what I've done. For over 20 years, I have literally represented individuals. I've represented Mary Rivers.
I know she was my attorney.
Yep, I went to trial with her.
And we won.
Years ago. We won.
Won.
Right? So it's one of those where I've had the privilege of representing so many incredible people. But you know what? It always kind of fed my soul. And I had my own law firm. I still have my own law firm. Great family. You know, I have the American dream, right? But then I had a case that really did teach me the limits of the law. So in 2016, December of 2016, I had a case that I took up to the Georgia Supreme Court. It dealt with an 18-year-old girl who'd been sexually assaulted when she was put under general anesthesia at a dental office. She was left alone for a couple of hours, alone. She was sexually assaulted. The guy who did it videotaped the sexual assault. He was eventually found criminally prosecuted. But she came to me and she said, this isn't right. Like, I was 18 years old and I was left alone in a room under anesthesia. They enabled this person to do this to me. So we took on the case against all odds. We ended up winning at every level because it was a compelling case, right? We get up to the Georgia Supreme Court in December of 2016, and y'all will remember it was tough time. It was after Trump had won. So as a woman, I'm not feeling great, right? Not feeling great. So I step in and I'm arguing, and I remember that the Supreme Court justices were coming out, and at that point in time, it was all men, right? All men coming out to listen to this argument. And I just remember thinking to myself, this is not going to go well. And in fact, it was one of those things where you could tell they did not get it, right? They did not understand the impact of this assault on this young woman, what it meant, why we needed to protect against it. There had been questions below and arguments below about, well, she was under anesthesia, so really what's the big deal, kind of thing. It was at that point, you know, I left that argument and people were like, great job, you know, and I was like, nope, something didn't feel right. A couple months later, the entire case got turned around, where every decision we had gotten got reversed. Years of work. And I remember calling my client, who was in her early 20s at the time, and saying, that's it. And she said, what are you talking about, that's it? I mean, this young woman who had basically put her life on display, talked about things she had never told her family, and really had to bare her soul because she felt like she didn't want this to happen to another young woman. And I said, there is nothing else we can do. Nothing else. And when I got off the phone with her, I said, you know, if this is the law, this isn't what the law should be, right? And clearly we need more diversity, whether we're talking about in the state house or the state senate or the judiciary. Women's views are not being represented. They're just not. Girls were not being protected. And I just said, I got to do something else. So that's when I decided to run for office. And amazingly, Hunter Hill resigned at the same time. And that's when I ran for his seat and we were able to flip it. Everybody thought it was a fluke, I will have to tell you. Everybody. The Republicans targeted me the next year. And not only did we win, but we won convincingly. And I have to tell y'all, I think it is because of representation, right? My district is still a swingy district. It is still competitive. But you know what? It doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat, if you're actually doing the job as the elected official and serving the people that you represent, right? Because that's what we want. We want people that listen to us, that are going to help us, that are going to, you know, go into the community and say, what are the concerns? And let me be responsive to that. And so we have continued to grow our margins in terms of winning elections year after year, to the point where now it is considered a pretty strong blue district. which is pretty amazing if you think about Hunter Hill just having represented this district in 2016. That was the last time he won re-election. And so it was one of those things where for the last 5 years I've been serving as a state senator. But I will tell you, as it happened when I was practicing law, I kept hitting my head up against the wall time and time again when things would come up. Y'all will remember HB 481 when there was that debate on the floor. I mean, that was maybe one of the toughest days we ever had in that chamber. And it really did, at that point in time, I realized that for a lot of people that were serving on the other side, they just saw it as a team thing, right? It was just a win or a loss for them. And they weren't thinking about people or women as human beings. They weren't even talking to the women in the chamber about what are the impacts of this, like in any real way. They even wouldn't even take questions on the floor. I mean, that's pretty pathetic, right? You are the men of the Republican Party in control in the Senate, and you won't even be questioned by one. That's a problem, right? HB 481. Right after that, there was an instance where I had a facility in my district. Some of y'all are familiar with the sterigenics issue. I had a facility in my district that we found out had been emitting and still is emitting to this day something called ethylene oxide. Ethylene oxide causes breast cancer. Very clearly, the EPD had basically hid that information from the public. The EPA had come to them and said, there are all of these census tracts in this area, all my district, that have higher levels of risk for cancer, specifically because of ETO being admitted into the atmosphere. We find out, y'all can imagine, people are scared. People are concerned. And again, this is not a Republican issue. This is not a Democratic issue. This is a people issue. This is about putting the people first and protecting them. So what did I do? As a lawyer, I did my research. And what I came back to was the person who really had the power to do something, of course, besides the governor, was the Attorney General of the state of Georgia. So I reached out to him. I said, can you do something? Please, go to court. Let's just try to figure out what's happening here. And not only did he basically ignore that request, but went behind closed doors and entered into a consent decree or order, I'm not quite sure how it was styled, where they made a deal that Sterigenics could keep operating, even though they had not gone through the full permitting process. Y'all, that doesn't say to me that this is somebody who cares about the people of this state. And it was personal. I lived in this area. My children went to school in this area. I worked there. I had a friend who was dying of breast cancer at that point in time. People were scared. Nobody would listen. Nobody would listen. And like I said, it wasn't an R issue or a D issue. It was just what government is supposed to be doing issue. And it failed again. So time after time after time, you know, we're dealing with these issues, and the top legal person in the state, the top legal person, you can't even find him, right? You ask him for an opinion, he won't give you one. Which is his whole job, right? He's supposed to give us guidance as to what's happening. What does the law say? What is it gonna do? How should we order our lives as individuals or as businesses? Refuses to give opinions, refuses to say anything. And so we get to December after 2020, and I'm sitting there in this room with Rudy Giuliani. Yeah. It was like one of the most surreal moments of my life. And I remember walking in and thinking, this is not happening. Like, for real, like, this is not happening. Like, it was like everybody that I saw on camera, the woman from OAN, I was like, what is this? Is this a joke? So what we came to learn is that there was nothing funny about it. And in fact, it basically was, you know, you heard from the January 6th Commission kind of, you know, what is the scheme? This basically was the implementation of the scheme on the ground in real time, in real life. John Eastman, the architect of it, he was there, right? You had Rudy Giuliani there, Jenna Ellis, like all of these folks that they talk about that were key to trying to overturn the election. They were all sitting in that Senate room and basically were being aided and abetted by sitting senators. Wow. Sitting senators. Y'all, at some point, again, it ain't political. It goes way further than that. Then on January 6th, I'm sitting at my desk at the Capitol because I'm worried too, watching various protesters around the Capitol as well, wondering what's going to happen. We see the insurrection real time on TV, and I was like, that's it. That's it. And you may say to yourself, well, what does that have to do with the Attorney General? Well, the Attorney General at the time was the head of an organization who was pushing folks to go to the Stop the Steal rally, right? Now, in fairness, he has said, well, I didn't really know about it. Well, what I have to say is, if you're the guy in charge and you don't know about it, that may be even worse, right? It is disqualifying. It is disqualifying to participate in something like that, to be a part of something like that, to be pushing people to that rally, to undermine the election results, and to say that you are the top legal official in this state. It is disqualifying. Yep. So, that's why I'm running, I have to tell you. And time again, it's like I have to keep getting kind of hit a little bit, like, okay, you know, trying to get a message here. And that's when I realized that what I needed to do is I needed to use my skills, the skills that I have gained over 20 years of trial practice, over 20 years of appellate practice, of being a successful lawyer, right? For people, and putting people first, to use that skill set to the benefit of the people of this state, because they deserve it. They deserve to have people representing them and working for them. Y'all deserve it. That care about them and prioritize people over power or position or partisanship. Hard stop. Hard stop. So y'all, we've been working hard. I know y'all know that. Y'all been working hard. There's a lot of candidates in the audience. Everybody's been working hard. People have been working hard for a long time. Y'all got to keep it going.
Yeah.
Y'all got to keep it going. I think that for so long, people would say, well, Roe v. Wade's going to get overturned. And people said, no, it's not, no, it's not, no, it's not. And then we've seen the implications of that, right? We've seen it. I have seen the real life implications when I have had women call my office to get legal advice about the fact that their physicians have said to them, you know what, if you would have come in last week, I could have helped you out in terms of, and what we're talking about is management of a miscarriage too, right? Managing this miscarriage, but you came in this week, I have to call legal. I have to call the legal department. That's not the way it should be. And that's definitely putting women in danger and children in danger. The people we're supposed to be prioritizing, or at least the people that I'm going to prioritize. It's the most vulnerable, our seniors, children, people that are targeted, right? The marginalized in this state. It really is about protecting the least of us, right? The left behind. So my name is Jen Jordan. I'm going to be your next Attorney General. And I'm sorry that it has some sound issues, but I think y'all could hear me. Okay. So at the end of the day, thank y'all so much. I appreciate it.